threat of a lawsuit after making a public records request, that to me is somewhat, in this kind of a race, unprecedented. So it again sheds light on how serious this race is getting. Let's go to Peter Mathews. We've invited Peter. He is our contributing political analyst and professor who has been tracking, of course, these kinds of things for years, a colleague of mine from my television days. So, Professor Peter Mathews, welcome back.
Good to be here, Dave. How are you doing?
Good, good, good. So on this Friday evening, when you start seeing congressional people, when you start seeing the House Minority Speaker, when you start seeing Barbara Boxer, what does this say about the L.A. race for mayor?
Well, it's still tight, but that's the momentum for Greuel, of course. So the latest polls I've seen were from the LA Weekly. Came out as a dead heat. Two polls were taken they're both in a dead heat right now, both candidates. But this is momentum for Greuel, a certain amount. But Garcetti also has his own momentum. I mean, he got endorsed by the New Frontier Democratic Club in the African-American community, a very strong Democratic
You can
club.
say all of that. You can say all of that, Peter. Don't mean to cut you off, but you can say all of that. But when you start saying Barbara Boxer, you start saying Nancy Pelosi, Janice Hahn, Judy Chu.
Those are heavyweights.
We're talking heavyweights.
Absolutely, and there's no doubt that's going to make a big difference. Also, Greuel can say, look, I've got a pipeline to the federal government.
That's the thing.
And that's where the money is. That's where we got to bring some money in for the city because the cities are suffering.
You see,
so that's going to be big for her.
Yeah, if this was Podunk America, I wouldn't care, but because it's the city of Los Angeles, and God knows I need left turn signals, and I can't get them because they're out of cash. Okay, is this the right time for this kind of an announcement? In other words, has she timed it all? Is the timing of this campaign going according to plan? Just from you looking, and you've watched campaigns for a long time.
Yes, and absolutely, timing is everything, and this is just a crucial moment because we're just a couple of weeks away here.
Yeah.
And the momentum will just carry her through to. I mean, that's the best shot she's got, getting these 4 endorsements. That includes Janice Hahn and Barbara Boxer and the Speaker Pelosi. That's huge. So I think that it's going to be a very tight race, as those LA Weekly polls are showing, Dave, and it has to do with this kind of momentum that's picked up by one side or the other. But look, don't forget the African American the preacher, the Reverend Chip Murray endorsed Garcetti, and that'll help to get the vote out too for the African American community. Jan Perry endorsed Garcetti, so he's got.
Yeah, but I got to tell you, brother, you got labor on the other side, and with all respect to my beloved brethren in the African American community, this comes down to sheer numbers. If they can motivate, if they can mobilize their base, my God, they're going to be decisive. I mean, another Hahn race was determined in the past by the African American vote. Question is, can this motivate them?
That's a very good question because a lot of times endorsements don't carry over. For example, Jan Perry's folks may vote independently, half of them for Garcetti, half for Greuel, as opposed to all for Garcetti. But you do have, labor is very strong also, as you mentioned. Labor can put the troops on the ground, Dave. And that's GOTV, get out the vote, is incredibly important. Who can get the troops on the ground on the election day itself?
It is labor, and you've touched on it, Professor. Labor has the motive, of course. They've got the synergy, but I loved your point about the passion of the Perry supporters. They're voting like for their home turf. Professor
Absolutely.
Peter Mathews, always good to have you on, sir. Have a great week, and I appreciate your insights.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Professor Peter Mathews, professor at Cypress College and also a regular commentator on many, many media, and so we're happy to have him as part of the David Cruz Show.